call. Got it. If you are able to switch on your video for proof of life, that would be delightful. Let us see the youth that are on the call and say hello to us. I hope you're in a place where you can switch on, your video for a little bit. Okay, so for some of you who might not know me, my name is Sharon Munyaka, and I am the current president-elect for SIOPSA. And looking forward to hosting you today. A big thank you to Prof Nasima, who has put this event together for us. And she's giving the youth of South Africa an opportunity to just reflect and talk about what has been happening in your different sections. So you'll see we have a lovely lineup today. And I'm going to give each of our panelists an opportunity to just say hello so you know who is in the room with us. So on the left of my screen, I have Marilee. Marilee, do you want to say hello to everyone and just tell them where you are in your IOP journey?
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Marilee and I'm an emerging IOP. I'm finishing my internship soon, but I can't say I'm registered as an intern yet. I'm still waiting on my registration. But yeah, finishing my internship soon, and then hopefully I'll join all of the registered industrial psychologists soon. Yeah.
Fabulous. We hope that administrative process gets finalized quickly. On my left, now popping up, is Tebogo, who is also part of our panelists today. Tebogo, say hello to us and tell us where you are in your IOP journey.
Good day, everyone. My name is Tebogo, all the way from Pretoria. So I completed my internship in 2020, but I'm not registered yet. Yeah, it is still some administration on my side. So I completed my master's as well in 2020. So I've worked in different industries. I did my internship at a bank, at one of the biggest bank in South Africa. I worked for a mining company. I had the honor and the privilege to be supervised for my master's by Prof Carrim, who invited me to this session. I'm currently working as an assistant HR and development consultant at one of a consultancy in Pretoria.
Fantastic. Thank you, Tebogo. And we like how you are very considerate, the biggest bank, the biggest consultancy. Like, guys, this youth is on the ball, people. We shall not disclose. We shall make sure we give everyone, you know, where they're at. So thank you so much. Nicole Hayes is also part of our panel. Please say hello to everyone.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Nicole. I'm from Cape Town, and I am a newly registered IOP, and I'm really excited to chat to you all today.
Fantastic, and congratulations on your recent registration. So please listen in, be asking questions, jot stuff down, because you can see our panel is comprised of people who are at different points in their IOP journey, and I hope you find some resonance. Azania, over to you to say hello to everyone.
Hi, everyone. My name is Azania. I'm also a registered industrial psychologist. I finished my internship last year and then got registered this year. And I just look forward to this discussion today.
Fantastic, and congrats to you, Azania, for your recent registration. So I am going to leave you in the capable hands of Prof Nasima Carrim to tell you a little bit more about the thinking that came around with this event and just to help guide the conversation. So please use this time to ask questions, to engage. This is your spot. This is your session where we want to hear your voices. And over to you, Prof.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you, Dr. Sharon Munyaka, for the introductions. And I welcome everybody, especially the panelists and the audience, to this event. So Youth Day in South Africa is a day to honor the courage and sacrifice of the Soweto uprising youth and celebrate all young people. On June 16, 1976, a demonstration in Soweto, led largely by high school students, was met with a brutal crackdown by police and set off a wave of protests and violent conflicts across South Africa. The day is now commemorated as Youth Day, an annual public holiday in which South Africa remembers the significance of these uprisings and the bravery of those involved, as well as the importance of supporting the youth across the country. I have with me some really good young IOPs who will share their perspectives on how far we have come in South Africa since these uprisings in 1976. None of these young panelists were even born when these uprisings took place. While the youth in the past were fighting against an oppressive regime, I want to know from our future leaders, how do they see the current situation in the world, and especially in South Africa? Welcome to today's discussion. Before we commence, let's look at what other Gen Z individuals say. Marissa, if we can play the video, please.
Hi, I'm Brianna.
I'm Thomas.
I'm Adam.
Hi, I'm Chad.
I'm Omkar.
I'm Nicole. And today we're going to be talking to you guys as Gen Z people, talking about the different misconceptions of Gen Zers. Gen Z people, Gen Zers. Perfect. It's going to be wild.
All right, so the first assumption we're looking at is that Gen Z grew up with smartphones and tablets, so they must know how to use all workplace technology.
I feel like I'm very tech savvy with my phone and my computer, but in terms of learning different software, don't know everything yet.
It doesn't make sense because we're good at 4 apps that we've used our entire lives.
Uber, Lyft, WhatsApp,
Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok.
I feel like workplace technology just comes from a different generation. Like it wasn't built to be user-friendly.
Yeah, complex. Doesn't make sense.
It's like learning curve, steep. Assumption number 2, Generation Z is always texting, DMing, or messaging their friends, so they must not like communicating in person.
I really disagree, especially when it comes to the world of work. Like if my manager was just like sending messages or DMing me about how I'm doing, I don't know, I'd feel like I'd want a new manager, honestly.
I'd much rather talk to my manager in person. There's so much value in knowing the direction of the conversation.
100%. I feel like some things are better told in person because I feel like over text, you might not know what tone people are taking.
Exactly.
You can just misconstrue so many of the different messages that people send.
We have been to a point where we also have seen the mishaps of not having good communication through messaging or email. And we prefer to be in person rather than email, just for the sake of having some kind of human connection.
Look at us right now, guys. This is incredible. We're not texting each other right now. This is good.
Okay, so our third assumption is that Gen Z just entered the workforce, so they must not experience burnout. I've experienced burnout a few times just throughout college and a little bit starting the workforce.
Yeah, and I think especially when you're starting your first job, everything at first can feel so overwhelming and you can get kind of burned out.
I think the burnout comes from the transition from school to work and the social pressure that is and how different it is.
We have that eager ambition of wanting to please as well as wanting to learn.
Especially still doing school, trying to work full time and then balance a social life on top of that, it gets hard.
When I first started, I was so excited. I wanted to learn everything as possible, so I said yes to way too many things. There's like, oh my God, I can't finish everything, so I got too excited.
And I think work-life balance is important because that's a concept that you don't really think about at all in college. Maybe you might be up till 2 a.m. studying. You don't have work-life balance, but I think it is very important when you're working 8 hours a day to have some type of balance.
Let's get out of here. We're done. Great work, guys.
So Asania, they have highlighted some of the myths related to your generation. Would you agree with these myths, or do you disagree with these?
I'd say I agree to some extent, and well, I'd say I'm more in the middle with regards to technology. I'd say we are a very tech-savvy generation,
Yes.
but I think the elder generation gives us way too much credit for knowing these technologies. For example, I think with my parents, they'd ask me to help them maybe with fixing a TV. I just put in the HDMI cable, and then they'll be like, my child is very good with technology, but I actually didn't do much with regards to that. So I think with technology, we do have an easier understanding of technology compared to like our older counterparts. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't say we're exactly experts, because when it comes to workplace technology also, I think it's more complicated, because for me, there was a point where it's easier for me to use a phone than for me to use a scanner. Someone had to teach me how to use a scanner, but if I'm given an app, it would be easier for me to go look through it and understand it. And also when it comes to the parts about DMing and texting, I'd say for me at work, it's easier for me to talk to the person, because if I have follow-up questions, I can get clarity quicker rather than just sending one email after another. And I've noticed there's people that actually prefer emails over talking. A person would send you an email when they're in the next office, when they could just walk over to you and tell you what they want. So for me, I feel like we prefer texting with personal things, but when it comes to work, I prefer you tell me so that I can ask questions, get more clarity. And the last one with regards to the burnout thing, I think we do get burned out. I think the shift from school to work is a lot, and we never really know what to expect from the work context. We still approach it as if this is research, this is my master's, and it's completely different. And I feel that also that shift for me was worse, and the burnout was made worse because of COVID. I started working and then COVID hit. So I had to adjust to working from home all the time. There was no difference between I couldn't separate my work life and my home life. So there was a lot of struggles with juggling that, and yeah, that did cause a lot of burnout.
Okay, thank you. And are there any particular myths in Africa about your generation?
Specifically to our generation, I'd say there's myths that I'm not sure if it's the right term, or career jump, or if I would say that we like jumping around from one career to another. We don't really have like job loyalty. We just move to maybe where the money is, where we feel like we'll grow, and we keep doing that. I think that's a myth, and it might be true. I think that's a myth that might be true also.
Okay, thank you for your opinions. And Marali, what would you say are the challenges that youth face today?
So, okay, cool. Thank you, Prof. I would completely agree with Azania on that. I think starting with jumping, that's actually true. And I'll actually, I want to go into the challenges a little bit more deeper. So I'm just going to build onto what Azania said there. One of the myths that are true is maybe jumping from career and job, because in South Africa itself, from a young age, we don't have the support and the resources to teach us self-awareness. So jumping from one career to the other, because we don't know what careers are out there. We don't know actually what it entails. Only when we get into the job, we're like, oh my word, okay, this is not what I expected. I wanted to be a vet and help animals. Meanwhile, you're actually working with the humans behind it, or you're working with very sad cases. And that's something that might be true. Okay, so jumping into the actual challenges that South African youth might be facing. And for those that are on the call, this might trigger some of your experiences, those that have survived these challenges, or those that are currently in it, or know about somebody that's going through these challenges. it is important to be aware that we aren't here to remind you of those challenges, but rather encourage and empower you to continue pushing through these challenges and breaking down the barriers. So the South African youth population is between the age of 15 to 35-year-olds. And Youth Day itself is an amazing opportunity to reflect honestly on where we are at as a country, and where we need to be. And what is the gap that we need to fulfill to get there? In order for us to do that, we need to honestly and authentically reflect on past experiences compared to where we are now. And part of that is we are nearly 30 years into democracy, while many South Africans still face a very deep fall in poverty and desperation, while our political leaders are evidently, I don't want to say becoming, because I don't think that is the case anymore, evidently becoming more of the problem than the solution. So even though we have many challenges that we face, there is still a rooted problem. There's a root that we need to tackle on first. So we're going to talk about the challenges, but there is a rooted problem already. And instead of fulfilling this potential that South Africa has, we have diversity, that all of these unique traits that can build a country so strong. We are actually so resourceful. We can survive on our own, actually, as a country, without imports. But because we are led into the wrong direction, instead of fulfilling this potential that we have, we continue fulfilling the stereotypes that an African nation possesses. And South Africans itself might not represent that. It might not be true. So our country itself lives in this paradox where we have multiple challenges, and there are multiple responses or solutions to these challenges. Something that is great about South Africa is that we have legislation, very progressive and comprehensive for most of it, comprehensive legislation that protects and empowers South Africans, but it's not necessarily exercised and practiced effectively.
Definitely.
So if we're looking at the bigger and broader challenges that the youth are facing, and I'm talking about the 15 to 35-year-old group, this might be happening in an overall, as South Africans in general, but we're looking specifically to that group. We're looking at, and I'm going to be honest and blunt here, and again, this is, if you are triggered by this, please talk to us afterwards. We have amazing IOPs that are able to debrief you. Just reach out to us. But we are looking at something as simple as rape and femicide that is a prevalent and detrimental challenge that South African youth are facing already at adolescent stage. If you're looking at a very intense problem that we're facing in adolescence, it is teenage pregnancy. But where does that stem from? We do have, if I'm talking about generalized problems, domestic violence, rape, again, femicide is also a massive problem. But where does that stem from? And it's already, brought up to us at a teenage level where we need to protect ourselves against sexual assault, against domestic violence, against rape itself. These are the challenges that teenagers already grow up with. And it lingers along into their workplace. It is mental health issues that we face as young adults, as youth in the workplace, because it already started at teenage age. If we're looking at the bigger problems that South Africa is facing, such as substance abuse, underage drinking is a massive problem in the youth. It's a challenge, and it persists throughout adulthood again. If we're looking at support systems, such as another problem that at teenage level that we're facing is cheating in tests and exams, right? That's a massive problem that we're currently facing, or the dropout rate, because children and learners do not have the right supports and resources to be told, listen, well, if this learning technique isn't working for you, then this is what we're supposed to do. Get to know yourself, build up a self-awareness to know what learning style works for you, what resources are at your reach. And in most cases, those resources and supports are not there.
Definitely.
How do you break through those barriers at high school? without those resources and support. And let's say out of the many that drop out, you're one of the ones that survived all of these challenges. You're the one that persisted and pushed through. And you decide to go to varsity level. Then there are various factors that we face at varsity level already. We're looking at finances, again, rape, domestic violence. But within the university environment, there's a little bit more support. There's a little bit more resources that you're now exposed to. But because we already have all of these issues that has built up to this point, it's so difficult to break through those barriers. And again, there's so many family, because we have so many different cultures, there are a lot of different family values, especially around finances and supports and the type of support that you need to provide back to your family. Regardless of your culture, many families have the cultural views and traditional views still push through into the young youth, into the Gen Z. And you might not agree with those values. But again, because you don't agree with those values, you don't have support if you go through challenges because you rebel against your family or family system, whatever the case might be. But let's say you've pushed through all of that now. We're getting to internship, we're getting to the workplace situation. And then we come to a place where, okay, companies are now trying to provide internships that might, and it's not just, it's in various different industries. We're providing internships that are either unpaid or very minimally paid internships. And then we're looking at lifestyle costs. How do we still survive our financial situation at varsity? A lot of us are paying off student loans. We have bursaries that barely paid anything. We have family that we need to, either provide for, or we have something that we need to provide for, or there's responsibility. And then companies are offering unpaid internships or paid internships that aren't covering the cost of living. And again, there are reasons for that. There are systems in place and reasons for why that is happening. But still, the intern has a set of responsibilities that they cannot meet. We're looking again, affecting at the mental health stage, the mental health impact.
Okay, thank you, Marilee.
Okay.
Teboho, any challenges that you or the youth, the Black female youth face? We cannot hear you. You're muted, Teboho.
I'm sorry, I'm muted. I'm just going to touch on a bit of industry challenges that I personally faced, and I saw my other counterparts who also went through the same thing. I think the biggest thing is having a seat at the table when decisions are being made. A lot of young people are excluded in leadership positions, and mainly solely that you are young, you are too young, and you don't know anything. This requires more experience. And I think we are, as a country, in a position that we need game changers. We need innovative people who are going to change this industry. When we are speaking about young Black females, already you are excluded, you are overlooked, you are too emotional, you are incompetent, you are just there to fill up the BEE in companies. And it's also difficult that the women that we look up to, when they get to the top, they get the Queen Bee syndrome. They don't want to extend the olive branch. They make you feel that I'm your boss. So for you to enter into a journey of you being, for example, if it's going to take you 5 years for you to become a human resources business partner, for you as a young Black female, it will take you 10 years just for you to get there. We also have challenges where incomes are not the same. We are not paid the same amount of money doing the same job, that you have managers say that you are young, you don't have any responsibilities. You get, a lot of things in industries. For me personally, I experienced bullying in the workplace that also led me to having some mental breakdown. So 2020 was an emotional year for me, even though I did not have a job, but it took time for me to go through the journey of healing. Those are some of the challenges we face as young Black women in the workplace.
Okay, thank you very much, Tebogo. Azania, as a Black male, what are some of the challenges that Black males face in industry?
I don't think there's much that Black males face compared to what Black females face. They deal with a lot more than us, but I think what's common in all of us is the unemployment rate or level. The unemployment level in South Africa is too much, as we all know. And when I was doing my master's, I remember we were told that only 1% or something, only 1% of the people in South Africa have a master's. And in my mind, that just translated that it's gonna be easier to get a job, it's gonna be easier to be placed somewhere, but in reality, it's not. It doesn't really matter. So I struggled a lot with like finding a job. When I was done with my internship, it took me a while. I thought it would be much quicker, and I can only imagine what people that only have an honors or just a bachelor's degree are going through. It has to be a lot. And as I'm talking about people that are still getting their masters or maybe their degrees, there's always another issue of funding. I think people struggle a lot with getting funding to go to pay for their fees and all that. And I think it's not that there isn't funding, because for me, what I found out was in universities, there are a lot of bursaries that are there that could assist, but the information, you have to go looking for the information. They won't come and tell you that there's such and such bursary that will cover 1, 2, 3 for you. You'll have to look for it. If you don't look for it, you won't get the information.
Yes.
And just to add on, I think to what Tebogo was saying, that because we are young, we are taken away from decision making, such things, and maybe opportunities because we are young. And it's this whole, I had one quote from someone who said, we should stop saying that the youth are the future. We are not the future. We are the now. We are the present. If you want us to make change, let's stop saying the youth can do this in the future. What can the youth do now? You can already see what our skills are. You can already see the capabilities that we have. So the change should come now from us. And I still think we have a long way to go if we're still being sidelined and if our voices are not being heard in the workplace. So I think that's a challenge that we would have to get to. And I also think with regards, I don't want to talk much about politics because politics is politics. There's a lot of change that our leaders can do, but they aren't doing it. And as the youth, we've given up on leadership. We've given up, as you've seen, like the rates of or the number of people that are voting decreased by a lot. Like the youth has just given up on leadership. They don't we don't think they can bring change. I think we are the change. We are the ones that can bring change. And I think conversations like this would bring improvement. Conversations like this should be reinforced. They should occur more often so that change does come. So I think, that's the challenges that we're going through right now.
And I think also, Zania, you touch on very important points. we need to start taking more action rather than talking things through. You can talk for 100 years, but until you don't get up and do something about, the challenges that we face, and that it's never going to come to an end. So I think even as a youth, I don't say go and protest out there and burn cars and burn buildings and that. When I say we need to take action, what I mean is that we need to start building something. We need to start building, and we need to start creating, even as a youth. Sometimes we cannot rely on the elders in society to do it for us, but we go out there and say, okay, as a youth, we're gonna get together as a community and start building things. I think that is where we can start creating jobs, perhaps, and we can start making South Africa, a country, a better country where youth employment also increases. Tebogo, from your side, people say this generation is a generation of instant gratification. And would you agree with that statement, that the youth just want everything on a turn and they expect, to be given things rather than going out there and building things and doing things for themselves? Will you agree with that statement?
I completely disagree. Nothing with this generation is ever handed to us. We have to fight. We saw in 2015 when we had the first Fees Must Fall, we actually took a stand to say that we want to be educated. Please allow us to have access to education. I believe that and nothing is ever handed to us on a silver platter. We constantly have to fight for our place in this country or anyway. We saw that we have young entrepreneurs that are building big businesses that have started from scratch without funding, without nothing. We have examples, great examples about Batu, which is a shoe brand that was started by a young man from Mamelodi, and now it has become a multinational shoe brand. So I strongly believe that we are not a generation that is entitled. When we want something, we go out and get it, and we start from scratch. Nothing is ever handed out to us. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Tebogo. Nicole, any other workplace challenges that you have identified from your perspective?
Yeah, so I was born in 1988, so technically I'm a millennial, but I think there's quite a few assumptions and stereotypes that millennials share with Gen Zs, particularly in the workplace. A big one for me is the expectation to be constantly connected. So that means having email on your phone, answering work, WhatsApp messages after hours and over weekends. So because we were brought up in a time where technology was becoming really a major part of the workforce, and being constantly connected when you leave the office. So that's like the new norm, always being connected. And there's this expectation that we always need to be available. And I think it's a lot harder to manage boundaries and work-life balance than it was 20, 30 years ago. And tying into this is the notion that burnout is being somewhat glamorized, and that as a Gen Z, if you're not constantly connected, then you're not really ambitious or serious about your career. And that, I think, is potentially really harmful to the mental health and well-being of this generation, and something that we as IOPs should actively be addressing a lot more.
Okay, thank you, Nicole. Marali, what are your biggest fears for the youth in South Africa and globally? You have mentioned a few of the challenges that youth face, about the rape and not being able to get jobs and, after the internship, not being paid in that. But is there anything else that you can identify? What are the fears that youth are facing in South Africa and globally as well?
I think South African fears are very much linked to unemployment right now. So maybe just building onto that, that's not only a fear for the youth right now, but that's a fear going in. And the reason for that is just the rate at which the GDP is growing. We're growing at a negative 6.25 rate at this stage, which means that if we're thinking about our future, South Africans, growing, creating businesses, all of those type of factors, even with that, our fear is, what are our support and resources? How much support and resources will we have going in here? And will there be change? Is there going to be change that's going to take place? If we're listening to all of our colleagues here, you can hear that our generation has this huge need and desire for change, and are creating it as we are going. So I think our biggest fear in South Africa is around unemployment, and where South Africa as a country is going. While globally, the fear stems from certain movements that should have been created years ago, but are only coming out now. So the fear is, okay, with the 5 different generations in the workplace right now, even though, let's say in a South African case, 33% of the youth make up the population at this stage, what impact do we have? What support do we have if we have this huge drive, but we do not have support from our upper generations or from upper level management, leadership, all of that? If we have this need, if we have the practical tools and the strategies in place, but we do not have follow through from leadership, and that is regionally, that is nationally, that is internationally. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Marali. Teboho, any hopes that you have for the youth in South Africa?
I hope they make education their number one priority. We have seen the importance of education, that we need industry disruptors. We need something that won't be taken away from us, even though there will be challenges, but if you have education, no one can take it away from you. We need to shy away from the lazy mentality that the government is going to hand everything to us. We need help. Let's, if you start some way, I believe that resources will come. You just don't have to just be relaxing. Just start and make education number one priority. Yeah.
Azania, from your side, any hopes?
Any hopes? For me, I just hope that in 25 years from now, whatever, we're not having this discussion. My hopes are just that there is change and this doesn't continue, because if you look at the whole fees must fall situation, I don't think it should have been something that was happening in 2015. I feel like that's something that should have been resolved much earlier. And as time goes on, we see that there's no change coming up. So I feel like my hope is that we don't have this discussion. We have new problems to focus on. We have different things to look at, not just discuss the same old problems that we could have solved now while we have the chance. So that's just my hope for the youth. And yeah, hopefully they just stay strong and work hard.
Okay, thank you, Azania. And Nicole, what can we do as IOPs and as emerging IOPs to help facilitate an authentically inclusive workplace?
Thanks, Prof. Yeah, so from my perspective, I think education for sure. I think there is a need for a shift to happen in organizations to view diversity and inclusion as a continuously evolving conversation rather than just a tick box exercise. And as IOPs, we need to require more from organizations in terms of their culture when it comes to diversity and inclusion specifically. whereby organizations don't just give the impression of being diverse and inclusive, but rather fostering an environment of consistent, open, and honest conversations in a psychologically safe space. And by doing so, encouraging employees to bring their authentic selves to work, while simultaneously creating an organizational culture that supports and actually celebrates this authenticity and diversity. And as IOPs, I think that we need to lift the bar and educate businesses and leaders to incorporate this shift in organizational culture that aligns with this accepting, embracing, and celebrating diversity. And the essence of this way of thinking, and perhaps a selling point for us as IOPs to leaders and businesses, is to approach this from a talent density perspective. So, because diversity really does bring the next level of innovation to the table, and it signifies what we were saying earlier about that shift from ambition to action, and that we need to continue what was essentially started when we became a democracy, to continue to level up and go beyond the requirements of legislation so that we fully embrace our diversity from an authentic perspective.
Okay. Thank you very much, Nicole. I see Namufle, you have joined us now. She's also part of the panelists, but unfortunately, the internet has been giving her issues. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, and then tell us about certain challenges that you face in the workplace, and how do you think we can overcome these challenges? You can unmute yourself.
Thank you so much. Yes, I've been having challenges, but I've been in and out, so I've been able to get much of the conversation. Thank you so much again for this opportunity. My name is Nomuhle, and I'm a training facilitator. And one thing I think, some of the challenges that, you know, Gen Z or as young people, we are facing in the workplace. I think also from the type of young ladies that I deal with is having a mentality of like a go-getter, having a mentality of that I can break through this limitation, because you'll find that the communities that they come from are very broken down communities. There's like, it's a narrative for everyone, especially for the young girls, teen pregnancy, staying with their families, relying on social grants. So for them, that's kind of like the ceiling. For them, that's kind of like the barrier. So when someone enters the workplace with that type of mentality, when they enter a new environment, an environment where you need to, you know, work hard, you need to push. For them, it's kind of a bit new. It's like as though maybe they're being thrown into the deep end. So at times you'll find that it's also kind of a mindset problem, that like how we've been speaking about, you know, mental health and mental conditions. So that's also something else that it's a conversation worth having, to say at times that when we do enter into the workplaces, the type of communities we come from, they also play a role into how we take advantages of opportunities that are given to us in the workplace, using them fully so that we don't end up in those same narratives as our other peers.
Okay, thank you very much for your comments. Any questions or comments from the audience? For any of the panelists, or any comments you want to make?
Maybe just something about, since we've spoken so much about the challenges around South African youth, I think it's important to remember that we are a generation that is very, even though there is many challenges that break us immensely, that we just keep telling ourselves, pick it up, it's one more time, let's make this work, let's keep going. And that point of using our drive and ambition to create opportunities for ourselves, even still pushing through those challenges, is very important.
Yes, definitely. And you know, at the end of the day, there's challenges worldwide. We see across Europe, in the States, Australia, people are going through challenges. These are challenging times. These are difficult times that the world is experiencing. It's not only a South African challenge. Unemployment is across the globe. There's poverty across the globe. You have pockets of poverty. There are countries that are rich in mineral resources, and yet a lot of their people, the youth, are suffering in their country. So at the end of the day, we need to take all these issues and challenges into context and see, okay, this is a source of it. How can we go about trying to resolve these issues? At times you will be able to do it, at other times you're not going to be able to do it. But I think we need to start, rising up to the occasion and say, how can we go about resolving issues? We can't just sit back passively and just accept everything that's given to us. So I think the youth, who are the future leaders, our future leaders, need to start taking an initiative and say, okay, 1, 2, 3, we're going to start resolving issues. And I think, when we look at the elephant in the room, it's so huge, and we look at these big issues and say, it might not be able to, we can't resolve this. But if you start working on small pockets of issues and challenges, one day you find that, we've already, overcome 80% of the challenges that we first identified. So I think we need to start off small and then go on to bigger things. So, it all starts with ourselves, in our communities, and then you can build on wider issues as well. So from your side, Marilee, your message to the youth.
My message to the youth would be a little bit more of a statistical approach. So if you look at what South African statistics are, look at what research says, look at where the gap lies and make it work for you. You can do it. Find the gap in the market and go and approach it. Whether it's a small gap or a big gap, go out and do it. You are capable of doing it.
Thank you, Marilee. That is a wonderful message. Namohle, anything from your side, message to the youth?
Yes, from my side, it would be definitely to step out, go beyond the boundaries, go beyond the limitations, reach further, do more, exceed all expectations. And you don't always have to look at the next person, at what they are doing or whatever. In some cases, just push beyond the barrier, and you'll never know what you can achieve at the end of the day. You never know who you could be helping as you are still striving to reach your own goal. You'll be setting many other young people free. You'll be giving them new opportunities while you're still creating your own new future. So my end note would be to say, reach further, do more, don't hold back, use every opportunity. And when it comes to the burnout, I think one positive way of looking at it is by saying that I'm using all opportunities. I want to make sure that I didn't waste anything. I left no stone unturned.
Thank you very much for your message, Namohle. You encourage us, and the youth especially, to reach for the stars and don't worry about all the limitations. It's, you're capable of doing whatever you want to do. And thank you for that message. It's really encouraging and inspiring. Teboho, from your side? You are muted, Teboho.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I think everyone took words out of my mouth. But the biggest thing, I think Nomuhle touched on it, is that don't look at what other people are doing. Stay in your own lane, run your own race, and surely you will get there. That is one thing I want to encourage the youth with. Stay in your own lane, run your own race, surely you will get there.
Yeah, thank you very much, Teboho. Sometimes we too focus on what other people are doing, and we forget about ourselves. And then we realize, we've fallen behind in the race.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Nicole, from your side?
Yeah, I want to build on to what Namohle and Tebogo were saying, is that I'd like to leave the following message with the youth today, is that be you, embrace your authenticity, and stop comparing yourself to others, because no one can be authentically you. So embrace that and provide the world with something unique that only you are able to give.
Thank you very much, Nicole. Very inspiring words as well. Yeah, be yourself, be true to yourself. Azania?
The message that I'd have would be, you can't do it alone. As much as you need to run your own race, you can't do it alone. We should always network with each other. We should always communicate with each other. Don't be afraid to reach out to someone, whether it's someone that's older and more experienced, or whether it's someone who's your peer and you're at the same level. Don't be afraid to reach out to them. Don't be afraid to communicate. And who knows, the person that you might connect with might help you in the future with something. That might be your future business partner. They might help you find a job. So I'd say always stay in touch with each other, always network, and yeah, let's work together, because we can't do this ourselves.
Yes. Yeah, thank you, Azania. A very good message. Yes, we all hold hands together and we can really move South Africa, and the future will look brighter. Let's have hope for the future, and let us all join hands and build our country and make it the best country in the world. And for our future children and for the future generations, we can say, yes, Generation Z did it, Generation Y did it, Generation X did it, and we are the generation that can take this country forward, definitely. So I want to thank the panelists for joining us today and giving their perspective on how far the youth have come from 1976. What are the challenges that we are facing? What are the hopes and the fears? And I want to also thank the audience. And I want to say to everybody out there, have a wonderful Youth Day on the 16th of June. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.